the plan for the spinoff was extremely exciting to me. I had never been the star of anything. And I discovered in the course of the development of that pilot, the Zelda pilot, the casting of it, the plot of it, that the star of a show could be deeply engaged in what was being developed and going on. They didn't treat me like a kid. I was 21, and I was in every meeting with them. I was in every casting meeting with them. I was in late night meetings where they would talk about whether to keep a scene in or throw it out. I was in meetings where they would try to figure out what are they going to do to make Zelda's character, her monologues at the beginning, kind of like Dobie's, where he would be, the thinker, and he would do a monologue. She would do a monologue at the beginning too. And finally we decided she would be playing the cello, and she would then pause and do her monologue and play the cello. I didn't play, of course, but I would, of course, learn, because if you have to ride a horse, you learn to ride a horse. If you have to sing an aria, you learn to sing an aria. That's what you do when you're acting. So I was very, very excited. And we developed the script, we cast the script, we shot the show. From what I heard from the people on the set, from Rod and Max, CBS was pretty high on the pilot. So I, of course, had to discontinue my contract with Dobie, sign a new contract, because if the pilot's sold, you have to be under contract to do the series. They need to tie you up for that. So I didn't have a contract with Dobie anymore, and I had signed the contract for Zelda. So in 1959, I had met and fallen in love with a woman, and it was very secret. I didn't tell anybody. I made up boyfriends that were conveniently out of town for everybody on the set who was wondering, whether I was dating or not. And we would tell stories about who we were dating, and during the break, I would pretend that I'd gone to New York and seen my boyfriend, and, it was a lot of lying. And so I was in a relationship, not living, I was really too young and in the closet, not living with my partner, although I could have, because in those days we had roommates. Everybody didn't think if you were living with a roommate, you were a lesbian. You had a roommate, And so, but that was sort of what my life was like. So the pilot was finished, and apparently it was shown to the president of CBS, Jim Aubrey, and nothing ever happened with it. And not very long after we expected it was going to be picked up, I was on the set visiting, and Rod Amato asked if we could just take a little walk. He wanted to talk to me. So I said, sure, I'm chirpy. I don't know the thing's not selling. I don't know what's going on. So he says, the pilot's probably not going to go. And I said, real? Why? And he said, well, Jim Aubrey looked at the pilot and he said, he thought you were just a little too butch. Well, I felt like someone had cracked an ice cube on my head and it was running down my whole body. Because when you're in the closet, the worst thing that can possibly happen to you in the industry is if you get outed or somebody knows, because you will lose your career. Certainly in those days, that was the case. And people think it's all over now, but it's not. It still can happen. But then it was, of course, in the early 60s, very dangerous. So I said, well, I didn't know what to say. And to tell you the truth, I was in such shock, I don't know what I did say. I do know that a couple weeks later, drove up the coast and was really thinking that I might maybe not want to live anymore. But fortunately, I didn't act on it. But you just think all kinds of stuff. My life is over. They're going to find out. I won't have any career. But as it turned out, I did 4 shows in the 4th year, the last year of Dobie Gillis. So in a way, I was kind of rescued by Rod, and it was good for them too. but I only did 4 shows.
What was the premise of the Zelda pilot? What was the storyline for her?
Really sort of the same thing, that she was really very smart and that she could do anything she wanted, but she had a conflict in terms of not knowing what to do without Dobie, because who was not an element in the show, because in a funny way with Dobie, she could be as smart, as strong, as good, as interesting, as inventive as she was. Zelda was more worried about whether she'd ever be able to get a boy if she was going to be so smart and strong and capable.
So how was it for you playing that at that time?
I didn't care. I was going to be the star of a series. It was fine with me. I trusted Max. He was not going to, throw Zelda under the bus. And frankly, it was a real conflict for smart girls. It was not fiction.